Um, I didn't know what to expect going into this movie. I still don't know exactly what I fully expect coming out of this movie.
Appropriate response.
All I know is it's really good, and it is really unfair for anyone that has to make a Spider-Man movie that's not animated.
Honestly, I'll go as far as to say it is really unfair for any other animated movie coming out, including one from Hayao Miyazaki.
The way they put this film together and the idea of the purpose of making every Spider-Man be animated differently, this should not have worked. Let alone be done to a near sharpshooter level of precision. Like, the legit only problem I have with this film is, and now I can't think of his name, Spider-Punk.
Oh, Hobie Brown?
Hobie Brown, guy who voiced him.
Oh, the actor is Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, I tell you right now, I literally knew 2 lines that he said the whole film. That is a legit complaint that I have. I could not understand him. And now I've seen that some people have had legit volume issues with the film, but I did not have those. But I could not understand what he was saying.
That is fair. He, aside from all the audio issues, which Phil Lord has addressed on Twitter, Spider-Punk, as much as I love him, he is legitimately my favorite new character that they introduced in this film. I will say, this is one of the few times where subtitles will really help in rewatching.
And like, I've gotten to a point now, if I watch something at home, I put subtitles on.
Same.
I'm a 32-year-old person. And like, this didn't even happen to me until I can't remember what it was. It was within the past 9 years, because it happened at my now surrogate dad's house, where like we went to watch something and he put subtitles on. I'm like, you really watch everything with subtitles? He's like, yeah, sometimes I don't catch stuff and they go in and I'm like, huh. And now I don't. Like, it's fully hit me, because now I'm going to be honest, and I'm looking at you, Christopher Nolan. Some people don't know how to balance audio in their movies, or don't know how to have people not speak over each other. But anyway, off the top, this movie is insane.
Yes.
The sheer amount of just no one was told no when they had a cool idea that you could tell in here. This was directed by 4 people, correct?
3.
3? Like, I think it needed that many people to handle what the hell was all going on with all the animation.
Before we get too far, I need to read the plot synopsis, because Sony has done probably one of the best marketing jobs for this movie, in that they did not spoil a single thing about this movie.
No.
So the synopsis reads, after reuniting with Gwen Stacy, Brooklyn's full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is catapulted across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. However, when the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles finds himself pitted against the other spiders. He must soon redefine what it means to be a hero so he can save the people he loves most. That is a very vague description of what actually happened.
Yeah, and this movie, and I appreciate that they're doing this, because it took until the Tom Holland trilogy for them to get their heads out of their asses to show something that is the most pivotal point of Spider-Man. Because it's in Uncle Ben's speech. Responsibility. The biggest thing that I loved in how, and somehow this got miscontributed to, there's a great friend of mine that thought the whole point of the 3rd Spider-Man movie was that math is better than magic, and that blows my mind how that works, because Peter's plan can't work unless he uses magic to send them back. But the whole thing is that Spider-Man is a hero, and what is a hero responsible for? In the 3rd Tom Holland movie, is it his responsibility to fix these people? before he sends him back? Is it? Is it his job to use his great power to do everything good that he can? In this movie, they don't outright say that, but it is heavily implied that Miles is like, no! Are you actually kidding me? We have all of this and we're just going to let... How do you know it's going to fall apart? How do you know?
Yeah.
Really? And then, yeah, it's falling apart. It's a giant spot from the character named Spot. They go and they show all this stuff of the webs breaking and the anomalies. You know what none of those things are describing look like? The thing that happened in Spider-Man India's world.
Yep.
It's a giant black spot. I always just love how it's like, no, I'm clearly in the right here. Y'all are ridiculous. But anyway, one thing that I have to say right off the top that I was so happy about is one thing that irritated me in these trailers is they showed Gwen with her ponytail. And I'm like, y'all, if you got rid of Gwen's undercut and her shave, I'm going to be pissed. Because that looked so good. And they got it in the dumbest way possible when he stuck his hand to the side of her head. And I'm like, y'all better not have got rid of that because it hides it in all the shots where she has the ponytail. And I was like, no, she just grew her hair out. She still has it. Thank God. But the, like you said, idea of how they start out is so weird. I wasn't expecting a full 20-minute scene with Gwen.
Yeah, this okay, so I've seen this movie twice now, and I'm going to see it a third tomorrow. But one thing that really stood out to me this time was, yeah, Miles is the main character of this trilogy, but Gwen really steals the spotlight in this movie.
Yeah, whoever the casting director was that got Haley Steinfeld to be Spider-Gwen, good job. I'm normally one of those people, and I always will be, and I'm happy you got in here, and I'll bring it up now. Pay voice actors. Get voice actors. And I was waiting, because I knew the advanced suit from Spider-Man the PS4 game was in here, and I'm like, if y'all have that suit in here and you introduce that character and you don't have Yuri Lowenthal, I'm walking out of that theater. Because you don't take something that is established as a voice actor, get rid of it. And they did. He has 2 lines, but Yuri Lowenthal is in it. I'm so happy. But anyway, you have her establish the whole thing with the captain and how he's doing his job, doing all that. And then we kind of jump off and get back into all of it. And the weird part, we don't learn the true plot of this film until the last 20 minutes of this film.
Yep.
It's kind of insane how this is the most middle movie of a trilogy I've seen in my life, but I loved it.
Same.
This is a quote from James Willems. You will likely have no idea who this is, but he is a person who was on a gaming channel that used to be a part of Machinima called Inside Gaming. And then he's at the same group migrated over called Funhouse, who works for Rooster Teeth. And he made this quote that has resonated with me because the more and more I see middle movies, the more and more I appreciate it because it's so true. The easiest movie to make in a trilogy is the second one. Because you have a pre-established beginning you can jump off of, and you can do whatever you want. You just have to end at a certain point so that the other movie can happen. That movie can be super important or not important at all because it's not the ending.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. It's almost like, now I don't know how far in advance they planned this to be a trilogy, but
considering the next one's supposedly out in freaking March of next year, I think they planned it out pretty well.
Oh no, I have no doubt that parts 2 and 3 were.
Oh, okay, I get what
I meant the trilogy as a whole.
As a whole, okay.
Because there are other examples of trilogies that kind of became one, from a standalone, like Back to the Future, The Matrix.
I think this was one of, even though it's Spider-Man, especially how they were animating it, this was a risk. because that is
it
very
was a risk.
stylized, and it was, I assume, incredibly expensive to animate it the way they did.
Actually, you want to know the crazy thing? The budget
Was
for
it
this was
not?
only $100 million.
Shut the front door.
This
I
goes,
want more superhero trilogies that are animated, like now. Like,
but this goes,
how?
this goes to my point. It's not about how much you spend; it's how you use your resources. And this is probably why they had 3 different directors. Like, I can't confirm that this is exactly their responsibilities, but I imagine one was tasked with handling the drama, like the character-driven stuff.
Mhm.
One was allocating all the resources for each different art style for like each different world, each different Spider-Man, etc. And then you have one who handles the action scenes, and oh boy, the action in this movie is kind of next level.
We have to. Okay, so I have a feeling that we should do this a couple of ways as far as reviewing this, because let's be honest here. This was Cameo City, USA.
Oh, it was
So
100%.
I think for a hot minute before we get into plot, we should just talk about the cool shit that we saw in some cameos. I'm sitting in that theater and I'm like, okay, so there's some things that I want to see, and there's some things I'm fully expected not to see. When I'm in that theater and they cut to Mrs. Chen's gas station,
That one actually blew my mind. I was not prepared for that.
me and my buddy Morgan went, what? I was like, nothing's off the table. They are at Mrs. Chen's right now. If Tom Hardy walks through that door, nothing is off the table.
I legitimately have no idea if that's like archival footage or new material.
Well, she's legit like talking. Like, those are new lines. I was like, what? I was like, they don't care. They're just like, everyone who has a cool idea, let's do it. That, when they start storyboarding stuff out from Spectacular Spider-Man, I was so happy. That is the best animated Spider-Man, in my opinion, and it gets shafted so often because it's got its legs cut from underneath it when Disney got the animation rights back, so everyone freaking reverts back to TAS, which is really good, by the way, and I'm going to bring up why later. But Spectacular was so good. Everyone watch it. It is the best version of the Venom storyline you will see in anything. It's so good.
And then Josh Keaton shows up for like a
And
second.
then you just get him. Period. I was like, all of my favorites, but I put this on my Facebook. We're seeing all this. We saw Andrew Garfield. Like, the legit only Spider-Man we didn't see was Tom Holland, which I assume because they're like, don't show him. We can't put him. We're figuring that shit out. But
all right, you want to hear some of the other people that they have?
Oh, I'll get to it, because the biggest one's going to be my point of why I'm so happy.
So Kimiko Glenn shows up again as Penny Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Peter parked car. Oh, I pissed myself laughing.
Wait, who was this?
That was the truck. You didn't see
that? Okay.
They bring his name up, and it's Peter parked car. I'm like, I hope that was made up for the movie, because that's fucking funny.
Hold on, this one's even funnier. Taron Killam as Patrick O'Hara / Web Slinger and his horse Widow.
That's right. The freaking God.
There's also Lego Spider-Man voiced by Nick Novicki.
I couldn't believe they went into Lego.
I am actually not as surprised because Lord and Miller Lego movie.
Well, I get that, but normally Lego is like monopolized by DC. That's why it was like a little bit of a shock to me. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. We already talked about Keaton. We already talked about Yuri. So Mike Rianda plays the spider therapist, Ezekiel Sims. Then Sophia Barclay is Malala Windsor or Spider UK.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Daniel Perez voicing Charlotte Weber or Sun Spider. Then there's Spider-Man 2211.
Which one is that one?
And then there's some random Spider-Man that Metro Boomin, who produced the soundtrack, voices for a split second.
Yeah, and it's like Mike, go on YouTube and look up before your third screening. Go and look up all the suits that are in the Spider-Man PS4 game. I think that all just got catapulted back into their brain after the suit because I saw like 12 of them that were in the back lab. Like, give or take, they're all from stuff. Like, the only one we didn't see that was in that thing was Spider Ghost Rider.
Wow.
There is one, yes. And like the one that they had, one that made me so happy was Spider-Man from the Foundation 4, that inverted white and black one. They had him have a trench coat, like a lab coat on in Spider-Man India, but it's so simple. It's white with black eyes and a black inlay spider webbing. It's so crisp. Oh, it looks so good.
Also, there's a Spider-Man dinosaur.
Yeah.
There's Spider Kitty.
They're always there. Before you name any characters, are there any characters that aren't Spider-Man? Because the big one that I want to talk about, I'll let you get through all the rest of them, but there's the big one I want to talk about. That I'm still having trouble processing. They finally brought that back.
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I'm not going to list off all of the non-speaking roles, but
like the one that starts with a P, I need to speak about real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So, for those of you that don't know, I grew up and I was born January 7th of 1991. I was the definition of a 90s kid. And I grew up on Batman TAS, Spider-Man TAS, the X-Men cartoon, all that stuff that was rocketing on Fox in the morning. That was the first time Spider-Man the Animated Series was the deathbed where all of the other Fox cartoons that didn't work went to go have a one-off episode and then go die. And like, this did really good. And even like, you realize when he only punches like 3 people in the whole show. Go back and watch it. They were very against punching. He almost never does it. But that is the show that introduced me to Prowler. And like, he was locked in his suit, and I thought he was just so damn cool looking that I fell in love with him. And then you get the first Spiderverse movie, or like, and then you get Miles, where they make his in-canon uncle Prowler. I'm like, y'all, that's so cool.
They knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. And then they have the movie where they show the sickest Prowler design. And then they have Miles Morales where they have an even sicker Prowler design. And then we're sitting in this movie, just chilling. And everyone forgets that Donald Glover played a character named Aaron.
In Homecoming.
In Homecoming. Named, now I can't think of his name. Miles' dad's last name.
Aaron Davies?
Aaron Davis. His name's Aaron Davis. In the Spider-Verse movies, they have him named Jefferson Morales. I don't understand that. But that was always weird to me in comics, too, how they were married and had 2 separate names. He was Jefferson Davis and she was Real Morales. But then, either way. But maybe they did that, but Aaron Davis is Prowler. And they have Donald Glover play just Aaron Davis as a dealer that Peter interacts with to get info on Vulture. And then he's like, just stay away from, was it Queens? Stay away from Queens or whichever suburb.
I think he said stay away from Brooklyn.
Or Brooklyn. He's like, I got an uncle over there. I know I have a nephew over there. I don't want him getting hurt. And anyone who's never read a comic book but knows who Miles is, like enough to not know that's his uncle, had no idea how cool of a little moment who are actually very important that could be.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're sitting in that theater well after the Mrs. Chen scene where I'm like, nah, they're not doing anything else in live action. And then my soul left my fucking body when Donald Glover is in a cell in a Predator outfit or in a Prowler outfit. I lost my shit. Like, all of y'all motherfuckers forgot. I didn't. I was so happy. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we are working on a Miles movie, but the writer's strike. I'm like, I need that movie right now. I need Aaron Davis in my life. Oh, I lost it. Oh, I couldn't believe it. And then at the end of this movie, you get that twist.
We'll get to that.
Ugh. But anyway, yeah, just everything. Like, you get to see the stuff with Rio and all of them getting promoted to captain, which is very cool because again, he deserves it. And like that he's obviously like, and I love how they went out of their way to make sure to let you know that the dude's name in his dorm room is Genki, because like that is his man in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I always thought it was so weird, because they pretty much made Ned Genki
Yeah.
in the movies. I'm like, guys, you have the Asian friend nerd that Miles is best friends with. What are you gonna do when you introduce Genki?
I also love how they clearly made fun of that with everything Genki was saying.
Yes. It's like, what are we doing? But yeah. And also, if you pay attention really close, in the dorm room, he's playing the Spider-Man PS4 game.
I saw that.
Made me so happy. But yeah. And then another one that I was like, I didn't see. I saw one trailer and I was like, I'm good. I didn't realize that they actually had May Parker.
Not only that, but we need to talk about Andy Samberg playing Ben Reilly,
who is my favorite new Spider-Man. I love him.
He looks like he's ripped right from the comics.
He does. Looks down alley suspensefully. Poses cool with bulging muscle. He's having the time of his life. I just like, and they kept doing all this stuff like, and also, by the way, here's Ben Reilly with Andy Samberg voice, and I'm like, what? They were getting all of the all-stars that you needed. And like, the one that really shocked me, I'm going to be honest, do you remember the Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon that horrendously bombed?
Barely.
Like, he was on some mission chasing Venom and Carnage, and they got sent in a rocket ship to a different planet. And like, Goblin was a good guy, and like Venom and Carnage were trying to make new symbiotes. And like, they have this big penultimate like thing, and then they canceled it, and it never did it. And then you see Unlimited in there for a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, he's the guy that'll be directly above you to the right in the like dark, like right above you in the video. There is Spider-Punk, and going down at an angle, there's another one in the middle, and I'm pretty sure that's Unlimited right behind him. But I was like, you even had the bastard child of the 90s that no one remembers.
Before we move away from cameos, some of the other ones that that I noticed, and Wikipedia kind of has like they mentioned Spider-Man Unlimited. There's Spider-Man from the Marvel Mangaverse, which is one that I wasn't expecting.
Yep. I didn't know about that because that's a costume in the game. That's the only reason I know about that.
There's Captain Spider. That's Flash Thompson.
Yep.
Maybelle Riley, Lady Spider.
Yep.
Spinneret.
It's Spinneret. Yep. And they oh boy. And then there was the there was a suit in there. Like, keep going.
I'm just gonna name a few more. Canadian Spider-Woman, Spider Bitch.
What?
Her name is Ashley Barton, or Spider Kingpin.
That one's brand new to me.
And then I'll only do a couple more. Spider Monkey, Spider Wolf, Chibi Spider-Man, and like you said, Peter parked car.
Peter parked car. Just the best. Where is it? It's got the guy's name. Aaron Aikman armor. That one was in there. Shoot. There was a couple of other ones. Like the big time suit, the crap. Where is it? I was really happy it was in there. A Spider Armor Mark II. That was that weird black and gold one that kind of had the cuff up around the face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but there was a ton of them. It's just like Spider-Man, like my favorite hero is Batman. But like as far as variety and suits wise, you got a much bigger variety in Spider-Man while still following the same overall template. And it's just, man, you can do so much with this. And it's like you have a whole nother third movie to bring other people into.
The last thing I'll say before we move on to more substance is that this movie, even more so than the first one, really is like a love letter to every iteration of Spider-Man from his first appearance in Amazing Stories.
You like how they put Enters the Fantasy as it flashed by on the screen, and then they called something the protocol. And there was something like a start point for something, and they classified it as the abbreviations of the comic book that he started out in.
Oh,
I can't remember what it's called.
That's awesome.
Yes.
As I was saying, like this movie, it really does a good job showcasing everything from like that first issue of Amazing Fantasies to the games. Like everything is there.
Like the legit only thing they didn't have, and it partially shocked me. Did you play the Spider-Man PS2 Spider-Man 2 game?
I didn't, but I'm aware of it.
Like the one that everyone was like, the swinging so good, like because it was, but now it's just Spider-Man. PS4 took that and made it a billion times better. There was always a thing where some girl would go, "Oh no, someone stole my balloon!" And like it was such an irritating thing because you just swing pinpoint at it, you could web zip it or you'd pop it. I was waiting for them to like have some kid ask them to rescue for a balloon, and he's like, "I'm not doing it." This kid asks me every day, but like that's the one thing I was just like, but yeah, as far as like actual plot, this one gets dark.
Yeah. Like I'll admit I don't know too much about Miguel O'Hara on the page, but in this movie he comes across like more like Batman with Spider-Man abilities than like the traditional Spider-Man.
Yeah, because it's like I have to remember when they started making the 2029 verse, because like there's a Punisher from that too that's got his own prison. There's a bunch of other stuff. I want to say they intentionally went for not like Ultimates was kind of edgier, but they really went hard with the 2029 stuff or the 2099 stuff. And like I remember Miguel, because I could be wrong, but part of me, if I remember correctly, there was an experiment trying to replicate the spider powers that Peter had, and that's what gave him his.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then he does have like slightly vampiric things, but I think it's like energy based. If I'm not wrong, it's kind of close to the like Venom stuff that Miles has. I could be wrong though, but yeah, he's got a whole different kit of toys, but I don't remember if he's like as much of a super douchebag like he is in this, but I'm going to be honest though. If you're going to do that to any Spider-Man, you're doing that to 2099. He's the most evil looking Spider-Man design that doesn't have something to do with the symbiote.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I love that Oscar Isaac gives kind of the perfect douchebag performance for this character.
He does. And keeping it kind of under wraps to keep him away and haul the way off. Like, you kind of make him just look like the overprotective dad at first, and you get to, because he doesn't want to put up with the damn kids this weekend, of like having to have more people around. Because at first it's like, what? It's a tight knit group. We don't have room for anyone more. And then you get there and there's 7,000 of them. And then like, you're like, okay, that wasn't why he was paranoid. Why doesn't he want more people involved? It's like specifically Miles. And then you get to this whole world of going to this stuff. He's got the day passes, things like that. And also, before we get too far away from it, Spot is the main villain.
Spot, I think, is the best example of a villain who, in the comics, is a joke.
Lame as hell.
and they clearly address that in the start, like at the start of this film.
That ATM. That whole scene is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, all of that was great.
Can you go charge me for this? You stopped that guy from stealing my ATM? No way. But saying Spot is someone's arch nemesis is just the funniest thing on the planet. It's like Daredevil with Stiltman. Like, what are we doing? But also another person wouldn't know about Spot if I didn't want Spider-Man TAS. But yeah.
But yeah, like I love how the whole reason why he is the main antagonist is because, well, it's completely by accident, because according to Miles, he kicked his own ass.
He did, exactly. And also you tie it into her like, you made me. I was like, are you purpose? He's like, he's purposely doing the whole, like, I think he's partially like kind of making a rip on like the people that really didn't like the fact that the Joker made Batman in the 89 movie.
That, and I don't know how long ago it was that you watched the Lego Batman movie.
It's been a minute.
But like they were kind of, I feel like they were poking a little bit fun at that relationship between Batman and Joker, where in this movie Spot wants to be more important to Miles than he actually is.
Exactly. He's actively irritated that he gets called a side character. Like, and he becomes this just like, and oh boy, check it off the list. But anyone who is a fan and didn't think this even slightly, I think you might be lying to me. How do you hook a guy that really likes Gurren Lagann into being interested in Spot? Have him go super evil and start looking like an anti-Spiral.
Yep.
I was like...
So, someone else on Twitter did like a made a tweet that said like Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse without context. One of the boxes was Gurren Lagann.
Yes! I was like, I can't be the only one that thought he looked like an anti-Spiral. He was pitch black and he had the white swirls all over him. Like, someone on that staff likes Gurren Lagann.
That has to be the explanation.
It has to be. It was way too damn close. Which also, speaking of other stuff, somebody who worked at Rooster Teeth that worked on Ruby ended up working on this. And they're in their like early 20s. So good job on them, whoever that was, because some other animator made a post about how they were super jealous. But yeah, you take Spot and then use him because you realize Spot is a just Z tier character, but you can make him the catalyst for a bigger plot because Spot is important for a third of this movie. And then it starts becoming, no, events happened because of you, Miles. And you're the original anomaly. And I am the actual original villain that you have to worry about. Because we're going to stop you from trying to save your dad. And Spot's going to. So it starts becoming less Spot was the inciting incident and not the actual villain.
Yep.
So they used him so well Because we're going to be honest, if it was just up to a group of well-trained Spider-Men and a fight against Spot, eventually Spot's going to lose.
Yeah. I love how much they understand how, like this movie is more than just a cameo fest. Yes, there are millions of cameos.
Yes.
But they're all in service of telling, honestly, a pretty personal story. It's about it's answering the question, who is Miles Morales?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And something else I love is like certain characters and certain lines of dialogue feel like they're in response to the backlash that somehow has been accrued against Miles Morales being Spider-Man. Like
go ahead.
You've probably seen like those incredibly totally not racist tweets saying Miles Morales is Miles Morales.
Not at all. It's like the only time I don't like Miles being called Spider-Man is when both of them are in the same scene and you see, hello, Spider-Man. Yes, Spider-Man. Hello, Spider-Man. It gets irritating to that point where it's like, did he used to be called, like in comics, Kid Arachnid?
I don't remember that.
But anyway, it's like, you and me were both kids that grew up on DC. There was the Flash family, and they were all called the Flash. We have Wally West. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the best version of a legacy character that has happened in comics since Wally.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
I would go as far as to say, at the very least, this iteration of this character is better than a lot of DC's legacy characters.
It is, because a lot of them were just guess what? You use a bow also and you're colored red. Like, a lot of those just became, we could come up with teams, because, like, I'm shocked the freaking Bat family's gotten away with how much they've done and somehow managed to make them different. Because, like, and they're running out of names. Batwing? Are you actually kidding me right now? But, hey, it's a Fox member, you do what you do. But it's like, it's one of those things where in the next movie, they start doing all this stuff. And like one thing where you don't play games, the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, the spinoff that they did, and now you can switch between Miles and Peter. And here it's like, Miles can be Spider-Man. They're never going to get rid of Peter Parker.
Exactly.
Why this is so cool is Miles wanting to be Spider-Man shows you how important Peter is. Why would he want to be Spider-Man if Spider-Man already wasn't cool as shit?
Exactly.
And it's like in the Spider-Man game, there's all these moments where it's like, how do you want to do it? Whatever. Like for his first spider suit, Peter just gives him an old version of his own suit. And like it looks really awkward on Miles, and that's good. And like he fights the Rhino and a couple other people where like there's this great moment at the end where like Miles's mask is ripped up and Rio runs in after this big battle, culminating awesome fight. And Rio is like holding him and like letting him take his friend passed away who was a villain. It's a really good it's really well done. The story in that game's amazing. But all of a sudden Rio sees it and she's like, I'm not mad. It's fine. Just go. And then as he's getting picked up and ready to leave, like all the people in the town come around and like these cops are trying to get in. They're trying to get in there. He's like, he's just a kid. And like, they all keep a secret. It's very close to the train scene. And then all these cops trying to figure out who Miles is. He's like, who the hell is that? That's our Spider-Man. It's like,
I love that.
Yeah. They didn't say that's the Spider-Man. He said that's our Spider-Man. Cause he's like, he watches over Queens. Parker's got Manhattan. Like, it's like they have their own home team Spider-Man, and it's so freaking cool. And it's the same thing that happens in this. I want in this third movie because he can be Spider-Man. He can be who his hero was. He loved this. What I want to have happen, and it's one of my favorite moments with legacy characters ever, to where I'm so upset that DC doesn't do more with freaking Terry. There's a moment in that first episode where they're fighting on a ship, and what was his name? Oh, the guy who killed Terry's parents. Or they thought killed Terry's parents. He's got like plague or like pestilence. It's the green skeletal dude. It's the guy who like the meme is based off. You're gonna have to be a lot more specific. You killed my parents. I can't think of his name.
Plasma, maybe?
I don't. It's a biblical term I want to say, but it's weird. But anyway, like Terry's in a fight and this guy is punching him up against the council, and he's like, "You're pretty good for some kid who thinks he's Batman," and he just screams at him, "I am Batman," and then one punch blows him clean across the room. And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" Like I want that moment with Miles so bad. Oh, it's so good.
Now you brought up Rio earlier, and in the last movie, Jefferson gets a little bit more time to shine out of the two parents, but I love Rio in this movie.
Rio's so good. The moment with Gwen, I bet she doesn't even speak Spanish. That was such a mom comment. I was so happy. Like she's the one that ungrounds him and lets him go and did all these other things. That family dynamic is so good.
I love it.
Yeah, and they're just animated so like who I know Brian Tyree Henry does Jefferson. Who does Rio?
That is Luna Lauren Velez.
Well, she does a fantastic job. Everyone in that whole scenario is just fantastic. That family's great. And you get to really close with the family and talking about like they want what they want from him and like the college and all that. And her telling him he's like, which very much again, feeding into this, you are who you are and you don't let other people tell you that. And it's not like if your reasoning for Miles being the new Spider-Man and you don't like it is because you think they're trying to get rid of Peter. A, you're dumb, but B, things change. They're not getting rid of Peter. If your reason that you don't like Miles being called the new Spider-Man is because you don't like Black people or any other type and you think they're trying to force representation down your throat, shut the fuck up. You're dumb. You are so dumb. They have tried that with comic book characters and it has failed. Miles works because they gave a shit about his origin and made him interesting. They put him in a good family. They gave him a good direction. They tied him directly to Prowler to give him some outs and other things in there. And they wrote him extremely well. That's also why he works, why people love him.
Also, out of all of the characters in the Ultimate Universe, Miles is the only one who survived.
Almost like it's the only one that mattered. And it's like, when you kill an entire universe and then drag him over, it's obvious it worked. There's a reason why they only talk about 2099 with Spider-Man. Because it's the only one that really worked.
Yep.
Some of them are kind of cool. But guess what? Normally they only hit a good one because they're trying to reinvent the wheel sometimes. And like, let the character be the character because it's interesting. Hey, guess what? I don't know if you guys have noticed this. This may come as a shock to you, but I am a 60% Irish, 40% German man who's very white. I know. If you've watched me for a number of years, that's very shocking. And I had to explain this to a friend of mine that was mad when Wally West was black in The Flash. Even though they turned him black in the comic books years before this.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, we're going to have a test right now. How many times... A, you're not that big of a fan of him because the guy didn't know they turned him black in comics. Magically, he was okay with it then after that. I was like, how many times? And this goes for anything, people. My favorite comic book character is... my favorite comic book characters are Deadpool, Captain America, Spider-Man, and Batman. all of them are white. That is not because I am white. I just really like them. And at that time, pretty much every character they made was white because that's the time that they were made in. Captain America. Never once did I open up that comic book and go, boy, I can't wait for Cap to be white in this scene. And then, like the thing with Wally, he was upset because he didn't have orange hair.
That one.
And then that's where I'm like, dude, never once did you go to watch anything and go, y'all, this scene's going to be sick. Wait till you see how orange Wally's hair is here. Oh, wait, you watch him because he cracks jokes, he's funny, and have an interesting personality and not his skin tone or his hair color? What? It's almost like that matters more. So dumb. Everyone who thinks the skin tone of a character matters in all situations is dumb. It matters in certain situations. If you turned the Black Panther white, that'd be incredibly stupid.
Yes, because you're taking minority characters away as opposed to adding more.
Yes, and also it ties into the actual point of his character. Everyone was like, when they had oh man, I forget his name. Plays Commissioner Gordon.
Jeffrey Wright. When they made Gordon black, they're like, well, we might as well just make Black Panther white now. I'm like, you could not have made a worse comparison if your life depended on it. Nothing about Gordon matters that he's white. Nothing matters whatsoever. If you made Black Panther white, the purpose of that character doesn't exist anymore. Exactly.
Y'all are stupid. But anyway, back to this. So they did a thing that was interesting about that. About the purpose of like pointing out responsibility, how they start telling Miles how he's the original anomaly. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And they're like, oh yeah, that spider did come through the portal. I forgot about that. But and how he wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man and how that original Spider-Man died. All that just went clean through my head because a lot of other stuff was going on. The Spider-Man of that world dying part. And then I start going through this whole movie where all of a sudden they're like, anyone who's a captain, they pretty much went the, guess what? Uncle Ben dies. No, sorry, Miles. Anyone who's a captain dies. They pretty much went, your Uncle Ben treatment also goes for anyone you like who's a captain in the police force. And then even Gwen was like, her dad's going to die. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, Gwen? And then they do this whole deal where it's like, no, that's not happening. And that's the inciting incident, is that you can't change an event or like a core event. And I'm like, you're guessing at this point. How often do you deal with this? If Miles was the first instance, you've only been dealing with it for a little more than a year and the world hasn't fallen apart.
At the start of this movie, they make it clear that this movie only takes place a year and like 4 months after the events of
a year and 4 months. So they haven't had anomalies for the past 30 years. Those people were alive. And then Miguel O'Hara talks about how he did it himself and he screwed up. Pot kettle much, Miguel?
That, or he's just ridiculously gun shy. Like he does it once, never again. Never again.
What? Nope, I screwed it up once. No other perfect times can work, even though, Miles, you're the exact example of why it's a really good reason it can happen differently sometimes. Because Spider-Man didn't die. You just got a different Spider-Man. And guess what? If you fix the Prowler of that neighborhood, you're going to have two really good people. You'll just have a different hero under a different name. But that then incites the most nuts chase scene ever.
Let me ask you this: between this and John Wick Chapter 4, is 2023 going to be the year of bombastic one guy versus many chase sequences.
I think it is. Because, like, I can't come up with another year where there were two that were this ridiculous. One in live action that I'm still comprehending. And then the most nutsoid, I legitimately felt my hands hurting for the animator scene in an animated film. That made, like, my whole arms felt like they wanted to fall off.
Yep.
Like, the last time I got that feeling was when we were watching the Evangelion rebuild films. And then that on steroids was this. I'm like, there's 100 characters on screen with different animation styles, different costumes, different colors, all this running in motion, and it doesn't look like ass.
There's just a very kinetic energy going throughout the whole sequence, and it goes on for quite a bit.
That middle chunk of that movie is like an hour.
Yeah, it's basically just like until they get to like the train sequence, like there's like a good at least 30 minutes of just kind of like just say like a spiral of spider people chasing them out of the building.
Absolutely. And before that, there's never any less than like 15 different Spider-Men on screen.
Yep.
Just doing shit in the background. And the ultimate version of the fucking Spider-Man point. Give up, go home, never try and imitate that meme again, because you ain't beating that.
Nope.
And then, like, there was a bunch of stuff where I'm like, why is there a bunch of Spider-Men in here that aren't appearing? Get to that later. But, yeah, we get that scene, and then he's just like, you can't change the events. You don't know who you are. You are not Spider-Man. You are an accident. And just, it goes on and on and on, and he finally gets him away. And, like, the fact also that everyone at HQ is starting to figure out, like, no, we are putting up with way too much shit for Miguel. Like, he's actually insane. That person lets him go. And then, man, for the sake of not making this review go 2 hours and not going through everything awesome that happened in this film, we'll start talking about the ending. That twist.
This is why the movie benefits from rewatching, because the first time I saw the movie, it didn't hit me until the scene with Rio, that he was taken not to his own world, which is
where
Earth.
The spider was from.
Yeah. So instead of going to Earth 1610, he went to Earth 42. The second time I saw the movie, I was specifically paying attention to what they said, like what was written on the computer screen. And then even before that, they cut to the deceased spider in like the cage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in hindsight, it should have been extremely fucking obvious that he was going to the wrong universe. And yet, while you're watching it the first time, like, you're so busy letting this all wash over you that you kind of you miss some of the more subtle details.
And like, your entire brain is focused on him getting back to his dad in time, and you're not paying attention to those little details whatsoever. You're thinking about Spot and the weird ass, like they did it with Scorpion, where like Spider-Man got poisoned, he started seeing hallucinations, like weird hallucinations of stuff going in and out between the city and stuff like that. And then also keeping your mind on Gwen going to go visit her dad.
Yep.
Which you then realize and that is so smart. I didn't think they were going to do it that way. All captains and everyone's lives need to die. And they're giving Peter Miles all this crap about wanting to save his dad because you can't change an event. And Miles, Miguel doesn't realize by taking Gwen in, he changed one with her because her dad quit the Force and is no longer a captain. So he's not going to die because he's not in that dumb rule they have set. And the world's not falling apart. they have a perfectly good altered event and nothing happened. So it's perfectly possible for him to save his dad and the world not to go to shit.
That is definitely going to come up in Beyond.
Yeah, it's either Miguel's too far from saving or Gwen's going to bring that up.
I have a feeling Gwen's going to bring that up.
Yeah. Oh.
But can we talk about that scene for a moment? How pretty much like every single moment that Gwen has with her father is honestly really heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's terrible. Like she thinks he thinks she's a murderer that murdered Peter, and he was still going to take her in. He knows full well she didn't do that.
But he is so deep into his hatred for vigilantes that like you know how parents will sort of half listen to what their children are saying because they're so deep in their own heads.
And like I'm your parent, so I'm right.
Yeah. Like they're so caught up in being a parent that like they don't really have the brain space to listen to what their children are saying. So even when like Gwen is explaining, all he gets out of what she's saying is that she's been lying for X amount of time.
Yep. And then the line from her when she's going on the fucking when they're in the room together. Can you just look at me? What is this? I'm looking at you. The fact you can't see without the mask on. There's so many of those little dumb you don't think about as humor moments in that movie that are written so well. And then obviously it's like, well, where are you gonna go? I'm just gonna, busy killing my best friends because that's something that I do. I'm just like, normally that'd be a child's reaction to their parent, but that is so on point. Like, how do you not believe her that she didn't kill her best friend? And
right.
Then all of a sudden where she's just like, what, you gotta go to, he's like, no, I quit. And then she's more happy about that moment that he quit, and then she's leaving. She doesn't even think about the fact that he's not gonna die, that he's not a captain anymore until after she's done actually recovering with him. And I'm like,
I also love like she asks like, when did you decide this? And he says like, about halfway through your big speech.
I love that. That was so good. It's just, it's the like, we didn't have time, but you were right. It's just, there's not a bad written character. Like, Miguel is the stereotypical, it's gonna go wrong, you gotta listen to me, kid, type of character. But like in these movies, you have to have that person who's the strict rule. I'm not mad that he's kind of a stereotype. Everyone in these movies is written like well. And again, you and me have said this thousands of times. A villain that believes they are right.
It's a scarier villain.
It's the best type of villains who have a legitimate reason to think they are correct. And he ruined stuff with his own daughter. And he's like, I screwed it up. You can't fix this. You cannot do this right, because if you did it right, it was right for you and not for me. Why would it work for you? And then you get to the scene where she's doing all this stuff with the only this comes back to my other complaint. I'm kind of upset we didn't get to see Aunt May.
Yeah,
because they're like, Aunt May moved to Florida. If we get to see Aunt May in that third movie, because I rewatched the What's Up Danger scene before I went in. Everyone, you had better try to nail it or give up, because if you are not, the What's Up Danger scene transition from Into the Spiderverse or the what could have been from Arcane, you are not going to outdo the walk scenes through music playing and nothing else happening. Just give up.
Those are probably the most iconic scenes from the past decade.
Oh,
But
up there. But
but to your point about Aunt May, I'm wondering if kind of like how Nick Cage isn't in this one, and I think there's a Zoe Kravitz played Mary Jane in the first one, but a different voice actor stepped in.
Zoe Kravitz played Mary Jane?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay. Holy crap. Wow.
Anyway, I'm wondering if like if either scheduling or there was just too much happening in this half of the story
Are
that
you trying to tell me that there was a lot that was already happening?
just a little.
I know it also could have been and Aunt May moved to Florida. There could have been the reason, like, here's why she's not in the movie. Here's our reason. She might be back later. It would have been the best where it was like Spider-Man Noir, and Aunt May will return. We need that Aunt May movie still.
Yes.
Aunt May's Vacation to Florida would be fantastic. But like, just the lead up to that moment where she tells him finally that he's Spider-Man, and she's just like, who? What?
Okay, so there's a couple of things happening in this. Like something else that's really cool that actually does kind of help you throw the audience off their scent that Miles was sent to the wrong universe is like they intercut his like getting to Earth 482 with Miguel and his cronies heading to Miles's universe.
Yes.
So like you are thrown off the scent until he gets into his apartment, into his bedroom, which have you noticed looks nothing like his room at the start?
In hindsight, a lot of stuff distracted me when I looked back. I was like, after they have the conversation, I was like,
even
wait a minute.
Even when Rio says like, did you do something to your hair? Like that's another one where I'm like,
didn't even hit me. I was like, oh, he's got mask hair. Maybe that's what it was. I was like,
that's what I thought.
And then you see him and he's got the freaking cornrows. I'm like, duh. But yeah, just that needle drop. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that Spider-Man died. And then all of a sudden you see Aaron come in. And you're like, hey, you get the needle drop that he's stranded over there. And also, hey, not gloss over the best scene. I like the character. It's just every time to see the ex-cop going, yeah, a friend left that for you. He was pretty sketchy though. when Spider-Punk left the freaking transporter there, that was amazing. He's like, for when you finally change your mind, like he knew she wasn't gonna keep up with that. And then she travels in, kids, and I'm gonna miss him. I was only in the film for like 5 minutes total, but I'm going to miss Scarlet Spider. So
Same.
much. No, is it Scarlet Spider? No. Ben Reilly. But because Scarlet Spider is another one that's got like a weird. There's a couple of costumes that are called Scarlet Spider. But anyway, yeah, you get the mix up between all of that, and then it starts going, and I'm like looking at my watch, I'm like, where are they ending this damn movie? And you see Aaron walk in, and I'm like, okay, so the Prowler's still in this universe. And then all of a sudden they get up, and you see that glimpse of who punches him. I'm like, that was Miles. I'm like, y'all, if Miles is Prowler in this universe, I'm gonna lose my shit. And then why else would Aaron be skeptical that this is Miles? Because he was just literally talking to him. And oh man, if you in that next movie have him talk Miles into helping him, and you get Miles Spider-Man along with Miles Prowler. Oh, my
That
brain just broke. My brain just broke because that is so close to Tails' real name. Miles Prower is Tails from Sonic's real name. Miles per
miles per
hour.
hour.
It's
Yep.
Miles per hour. Yes, it is dumb. And then it's if you get Miles as Prowler going in to help, I might die.
I think that is going to happen.
Because if that third movie is just as long as this one, how much crap are you going to have happen?
It's going to be a monster of a project.
Because you've got that, and then you see the portal open up, and you see Mayday pointing out the window, hanging upside down. That kid's so good. And see there, and all of a sudden you see her in the front, or he's like, "Yeah, I gotta go. Don't tell your mom." And I was like, "Okay, we're missing a key point here," because the entire film, I'm like, "Where's Spider-Man Noir? Where's Spider-Pig? Where are all these people that we care about?" And then all of a sudden you cut to the rooftop, and I'm like, 2024! And then you tell me there was no end credits scene, and I'm like, mother. Because they really didn't need one. You really didn't. You want to wait because you have all the info that you need.
Yep. Like this is one of those movies where a mid or post credit scene would have just been unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. You know, I lied. I wanted one thing as a post credit scene. It cuts down from like Skycam shot moving down, going up to a lounge chair on a beach. And then a watch goes off and it says, "Hey, Miles is in trouble. I need you." And then it shuts and it shows Aunt May.
Okay, yep.
I would have lost my shit if they're like, "No, we almost had everyone. Aunt May's coming." She's got her own shit. Because, like, sometimes people forget Aunt May was really important in that movie. She made Miles his web shooters.
Yep.
And, like, she was bordering on his mentor. Oh, that would have, man, I'd have lost my shit if you see Jake. That's all I would have needed. But you know what? It is what it is. Okay. In your opinion.
Something else I want to bring up. The conversation that Peter B. Parker has with Miles when he's like, hold the baby.
Yeah, like, just for a little bit. It'll make you feel so much better.
that whole scene is it's so good, and it really drives home the positive side of Miles and his interactions with everyone.
Yeah,
despite being an anomaly.
An anomaly, like them throwing in that he had a kid because of Miles is amazing. Like, that is the most positive back onto the mentor from the legacy character thing ever. Because, like, I'm pretty sure Mayday Parker, like, existed before Miles. I could be 1,000% wrong, but I think she did. But then making it seem that May happened because of Miles, because he was in a bad spot before he met Miles, and Miles fixed him.
Yep.
And it just, it was so good. And then, like, the conversation that him and MJ have that is bordering on the, like, the situation of him not liking it. It kind of reminded me of the Pepper Potts and Tony thing when he invented time travel but didn't know if he wanted to, like, show them. He's like, "Can you really stay out of this?" He's just kind of prod, and then as soon as the opportunity came to disobey everyone and they were in the yard, he's like, "Don't tell your mom." He just jets off. It's like, oh yeah, Peter. Man, they're so good. They're so good. I can't wait. Man, I cannot wait for that movie. that was like when they said, okay, do you know they said the record that this is the longest animated movie of all time? What was the one that was even closest to this?
Probably Evangelion 3.0.1. Let me double check.
I didn't know if they counted those as animated movies because yeah, I would imagine I would think that's actually longer if they count those.
I'm looking up the runtime now. 155 minutes. This one is only 140.
Okay, so Evangelion's longer?
Yep.
So they don't count anime films?
Clearly not, because anime, like, to like the top dog people in film journalism, anime is still pretty niche. But as far as like Western mainstream anime, like animated movies, yeah, this takes the cake.
Takes the cake, yeah. Like, this is one of those, like, normally when I say I felt the length of a movie, it feels bad. Like, I felt how long this movie was, but I would have been okay if it was 4 hours long.
Same.
Because, like, never once did I catch myself, other than when we were like minutes away and I knew it was coming up and I thought I had like a bad ray of time where I was like, what cliffhanger are they ending me on? Because they obviously weren't like absorbing this plot point. And I'm like, what the hell? I never caught myself going, we're going to end this freaking thing. What's going on? I was always just like, no, I could watch these characters all day.
Both times I saw this movie, not once did I look at my clock. Like,
no,
not once.
It was great. And everything that was going on, you hooked in. It's just this team and this studio that is behind making these movies. It's really good. And I tell you what, they should, if this Miles thing is done and then they focus solely on a live action Miles, good fucking luck. Because, oh boy, did you shoot yourself in the foot. Going to be 3 times by the time that Miles movie comes out, because guess what? If it's not very good, you got an automatic really good comparison point right here, even though it's really unfair. But pick another hero. Pick another hero and do something just like this. Pick Black Cat. Pick Prowler. Do something. Get a group of people, do anything, and then make another awesome adventure like this that you can't do in live action.
Agreed.
Because there's some things that are just like, I like seeing stuff in live action, but there's just certain stuff where it's like, we want to do something purposely because we know it'll be so much fun to like do this in animation, and this format will fit better. And you couldn't make this if it was live action.
Nope.
You physically could not. This movie would have costed $600 million just off of casting it.
This is one of those examples of this story being told in the right medium. And some people will be quick to dismiss this as style over substance, but in this case...
And you'd be wrong.
Well, yeah, you'd be dead wrong, but specifically, this is like... this is a movie where the style is the substance, and then there's still more substance.
Yes. It was like this and Arcane, as of recent, that went, this story is really good, these characters are really good, and it needs to be animated. We are making a choice to also make it the most stylish looking thing you've ever seen in your life, so that people know how much work we're putting into this, that they remember it for this. And then when sometimes some jackwagon might go, oh yeah, it just looked really good, they're going to watch it and go, yeah, it was also really good too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when they said the amount of styles of animation, and it's like, you didn't realize how different they were until you actually saw them go to each one of their different worlds and then seeing them next to each other. Like, just watching Spider-Punk walk through a scene, I was like, what am I watching? And then the fact that they weren't afraid to go to live action, like we mentioned already, when they went into Mrs. Chan's supermarket, I'm just, He's talking through an anime portal to her, and she just doesn't care. And she's just like, this is a weirded out. He's like, listen, kid, I've had a lot of weird things happening lately.
Love it. I also love just that they're not afraid to try like anything. Like the before we get to the Mrs. Chen's world, they go to like some early like golden age comic, and everyone's just completely weirded out.
Yup, and like that weird like Shakespeare Victorian like paper mache vulture that Gwen and them fought. Like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
And even like those scenes where like Miles and Spot's visions are like kind of combined in a like cool like sketchy black and white style, like that is something you cannot do in live action.
You can't, or it looks stupid. And like this is the point to where I'm like, you can make multiple things, but you need to care. This studio, this Sony made this and Morbius. Y'all want to talk about how you think the gaps in quality are so giant in MCU movies. Yes, you have your Iron Man 2s. And yes, you then also have your Black Panthers. That is nowhere near the gap from this to fucking Morbius. You can tell when...
That's not a gap. That's a bottomless pit.
And it's like, the difference is not the character. The difference is they cared here. They wanted to expand their universe here. Care every time!
Yes.
My God, it's never been more apparent that they let that out to die. And that it was just like, here's the vampire. What about El Morte? Wait, we've made no progress on that? We have a better Mexican representation? Who's Miles? We already made an animated movie about him and people love him? Oh yeah, work more on that one. Sorry we were being really dumb and made that announcement. Oh my God. Still blows my mind. Still blows my mind. A character with like 7 issues to his name. You were going to try and make a movie for before Miles fucking Morales.
Makes no sense, but I am glad that we have this movie to celebrate pretty much everything that's great about Spider-Man in general.
Yes, and it's like, and we're going to say this again, my favorite of all time superhero is Batman, just because of like similarities, the stuff it helped me get through as a kid with the animated series, and just his relationship with the Robins when Frank Miller isn't writing him, and all these other things. Just, it really gets to me. But I will tell you, and anyone can argue this with me, you're wrong. One may make more money than the others because the IP has been established and they made movies for longer with it. But in my opinion, Spider-Man is the most, again, if you give a shit when you're making it, is the most easily adaptable character into mediums. He's the most fun thing to play in a video game. Yes, I played all the Arkham games. I love them. The Spider-Man PS4 games are a lot more fun to play. The movies, you could do so much more. He is such a character that you could do rich things with in movies if you actually give a shit. He is, in my opinion, the most easily adaptable character into anything ever that is a superhero.
Because, to quote the last movie, anybody can wear the mask. You can wear the mask.
Yes. And it's like, and that's the same thing, like that it's just, it's unreal how well this works when you give a shit. And that's just, I'll never understand where people were like, a lot of people worked on that. They gave their heart into it. I'm like, yeah, but the person that put that into play, you can tell sometimes didn't give a shit. They cared more about the actual money than the story, which I'll reiterate again. This is one of my favorite quotes from John Campea because it's the absolute fucking truth. Everything ever made is a cash grab.
Yep.
I do not call things a cash grab because every single thing that was ever made by anybody that ever breathed in their lives is a cash grab. One is soulless. That's different. One had no real thought behind it. That's a quality thing you can put in. Those are what you describe them as. Some of them are purely to fill a slate. This was the exact opposite. That, like, what I want to say, this reminds me of Top Gun Maverick.
Yes.
And what I mentioned about Top Gun Maverick, the first film is my second mom, my surrogate dad's wife. It's her favorite movie. I didn't see it until I was like 25. Didn't particularly care a ton for it. Like, I liked it, but I wasn't like blown away. Top Gun Maverick is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've never until that point felt a movie where every single second of that movie felt like it was only being made because they wanted to make that movie and wouldn't give a shit if it didn't make a dime.
And yet we saw how the box office played out.
It blew up. Shocking when you put that much care into something that it fucking soars. Pun intended.
I want to end on this. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on its opening weekend only made like $35 million.
Isn't it going to like triple with this movie?
Yes, but on Friday alone, combined with the Thursday numbers, it had already made like 51 million. And we're just talking domestic too.
Yes. And yeah, it's very few times that I'm going to say this. People, if you watch any of the two superhero movies more than once, please go watch Miles. I do not want this thing getting steamrolled by Transformers and The Flash. I'm not saying don't watch them, but for the love of God, if you're going to want to go watch a couple more than once, please go watch this one.
Yes.
Give or take, they're already well into the other one and it's not going to get canceled, but show them that this is a medium that can work. Please. And then watch Transformers multiple times because I want more stuff with Beast Wars.
Yeah. Really quick, just to give a little preview of how packed June is. Transformers is next week.
Yep.
The Flash is in 2.
Yep.
And then, you got a new Wes Anderson sandwiched in between The Flash and a brand new Indiana Jones at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got Disney and Pixar's Elemental. You have a couple of other counter programming in there somewhere. Like this month is going to be insane.
The summer movie season is truly here. It's unreal. But yeah, go and see this. It's fantastic. Unbelievably fantastic. Did Homecoming come out before this? I mean, before the original Spider-Verse movie?
Yeah, Homecoming was 2017. Into the Spider-Verse was 2018.
Like when Manning brought up that the entire Holland Spider-Man trilogy happened in between Guardians 2 and 3, I was almost thinking in my head, I'm like, did we also get that entire trilogy between these two movies?
Yes.
We didn't, but we got the other two. They finished the trilogy before this one got done.
Yeah.
That's insane. Those bigger productions, and like, I'm happy this took long. I'm very happy. Give or take, COVID played a big chunk into that, but still. Anyways, all right. We're going to get on out of here. We talked enough about this. A+ all around the board. It was done great. Can't wait for 2024. Cannot wait. I want that third movie to make $1 billion.
Yes. I think it will.
It's
like
so good.
People clearly love this movie that if this one doesn't do the trick, the next one definitely will.
Yeah. And hopefully it's the one thing I think is going to hinder this one is what you just mentioned with everything else that's happening in June.
That's the only reason why it won't.
Yeah, the next time if they find a really good slot with nothing else around it, this thing is going to rake the cash in. Because it's going to get rewatched, and when everyone finds out that it's an actual cliffhanger into the next movie, yeah. But all right, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser, subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we.
Absolutely. You can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mainly on Twitch and YouTube. And until next time, we will see you all later. Bye.